Hello, I am Lani, also known as Jujupag Garden, an avid gardener here in Maryland Zone 7. If this is your first time, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, or hit that notification bell if you wanted to be notified for the next video. So let's get going. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you guys what is happening in this deck because there's still a lot of production that's happening in here. It's a pretty small space of a deck garden. I use a lot of pots and whiskey barrel planters and nursery pots. I even use dish pan that I've converted as a planter by just drilling holes. So I wanted to share with you guys why I'm actually growing in this deck garden. If you guys didn't know yet or haven't watched my previous videos, I have a main garden, but I decided this year that I wanted to extend my garden to this deck. I actually started in this deck because there's plenty of sunlight, and back then we have some steps and we didn't really have a lot of space to grow a lot of things. So I decided to grow a few things here. And then once the space in our backyard opened up, I decided to use that space as a main garden. But I noticed that the plants get shaded quite a bit because the tall plants tend to cast shadow on the smaller plants. So I decided to use this space because this deck is actually in the southwest facing direction. So it gets plenty of sunlight in the morning, and in the afternoon it gets shaded a little bit, which is fine because it's already able to get plenty of sunlight during the day. So I was able to utilize the space this year to grow a lot of plants. One thing I have noticed is that once everything started blooming and become more bushy, it has become harder to move around in this space. So if there's something that I'm going to improve for the next growing season will be minimizing some of the plants that are in here, or maybe to grow it a little bit more vertical so that I could maximize the space and not make it too tight, because right now it's a little bit harder to move around in this space because I definitely have packed this one. I wanted to show you guys that even with a small space, if you have a balcony or a smaller space, you can still grow a lot of things. I have harvested quite a bit from all the plants that are growing in here. Although with some of them, the citrus plants, I haven't really been able to grab anything from it. They just are growing beautifully because most of them were planted for the first time this year. But there's still a lot of plants that have given me a lot of produce, fruits, basically berries. Right here, beans. There's just a lot of things that you guys can grow in a small space. I'd say my husband would probably disagree that this is a good space for growing because I took out basically most of his space for grilling and smoking meat. But just find a happy medium. If it causes marriage issue with other people, of course you have to consider those. But if you are someone like me who wanted an option to grow more food, a deck garden is a good space to grow, especially if you get plenty of sunlight. Without further ado, I'd like to proceed with the garden tour for the deck. So right here in this space, I have right here, this one is the Malabar spinach, which is basically growing vertically. I actually have not really taken advantage of this plant because I have to be in a mood for the taste for salad in the summer. There's just a lot of options to eat in the summer, so I haven't really taken advantage of it. But I grew up eating this plant back in the Philippines, so I wanted to grow it again. But next year, I'm actually having a second thought growing it. I may use the space for growing another thing. So in here, I have these strawberries, and down here are carrots. Here I have this beautiful looking fig plant. This is the Chicago fig variety. This is the Meyer lemon, and this right here is kale. Over here is the moringa tree, which I've actually overwintered from last year and has become thicker already. It's a dwarf variety which is currently growing in a 5-gallon pot. I'm planning to up pot this one, but I'm doubting a little bit because this plant is a little bit sensitive. So I wanted to see if I could actually keep it growing and overwinter it, but we'll see how it goes. For now, I wanted to enjoy, some of the harvest that I get from here. And behind me are mostly strawberry plants. And this is something called calamansi, which I grew up eating back in the Philippines. But unfortunately, this one is actually not giving me any fruits as of yet. I'm contemplating on actually just getting rid of it, just planting another thing because I started this one from seed. I'm not sure if this will actually ever give me fruits at all. I'm thinking of just getting rid of it this year, but I still haven't fully decided yet. And right here is my green stalk planter, which I've actually just filled with strawberry plants. So I love this planter. My problem when it comes to planting strawberry is that it's harder for me to keep up with cutting the runners, which is taking up so much energy from the plant, which causes it not to produce that much. Hopefully, I could get some more production before it becomes dormant in the winter. One of the issues that I've actually faced in this deck garden this year is the presence of raccoons. And so I get constantly visited by raccoons at night. They've been messing up with a lot of my plants, but thankfully it's not so much. But they have definitely did some damage when it comes to my pumpkins and my tomatoes. So they have destroyed quite a bit of my tomatoes from this day, and there were some nice looking and big tomatoes as well, but unfortunately we can't win every game, so I just have to be happy that they don't really mess with my main garden. You would see a lot of netting in this garden, and the reason for that is I wanted to deter the raccoons from messing up with everything. In my main garden, I use a lot of netting to protect the plants from the deer. And thankfully, the raccoons don't really mess with the main garden that much. But unfortunately, up on my deck garden, the raccoons has been messing with them, and it has become like a playground for them. But like I said, I cannot complain fully for having those problems because I think every garden has a problem. You just got to be thankful and try to minimize those effects. Thankfully, the netting has done a pretty good job. It's not 100% raccoon proof, but it helps. One thing that I've also recently used and added in this deck garden is using some Irish Spring soap. Place it in an organza bag and hang it under the table to kind of protect it from the rain. But I've also heard one of my gardening friends said that it's not really an issue. What most people would normally do is would just hang it on their fences, and it doesn't really do any harm to the plants. And it deters deer. For raccoons, I couldn't really 100% say that it works pretty well, but this is a year for me to test if it's actually working or not. Something that I added in the previous month is this bird feeder for hummingbirds. It's actually fun watching the birds be territorial and their little personalities. I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard to say it's bird personality, but it's nice to watch birds all the time being up here. I have here the one and only pumpkin left. I've harvested the rest of the pumpkin from this spot a couple of days ago, but I have one in here that I have left. I'm still contemplating on keeping it because there's already a vine borer, but there are also a couple of fruits that are in there. That tomato plant behind me is loaded with a lot of tomatoes, but actually in the beginning there were low hanging fruits at the bottom of these tomatoes, and they were really big and nice looking tomatoes. I was definitely excited to harvest them, but unfortunately the raccoons have another plan. Whenever I find those tomatoes just laying around on the deck floor, it's not fun to see something that you've been waiting for quite a while, only to find out in the following morning that they're gone. I even use bags like those to protect the fruits, but it doesn't always work, especially with raccoons. I think they just like playing with them. So that's one of the issues that I have. But the beauty of this plant is that because I was able to feed this plant, they are actually starting to grow some more buds and produce more fruits, just like what you see right there at the back. I also have a couple of flowers in here. So I do have the marigold and petunias. These are actually constantly getting visits from moths and butterflies and hoverflies and other kinds of beneficial insects. So these are the citrus plants that I have. This is calamansi, a variegated variety. They are starting to flower. I don't really get excited over them anymore because I feel like when I see them flower, they drop eventually. So hopefully these ones will take. Yeah, there's one over there. We'll see if that takes. This is another calamansi plant, but this is the usual regular calamansi plant. And I also have here the variegated pink lemonade. This is also planted this year, so I'm not really expecting much from them. These two pots right here have kale and collard greens. They're planted densely in this little pots. This is a bean plant. I'm not sure what variety this one exactly is, but one of them started growing pretty well, and actually have I have harvested some of this already. I randomly planted beans in here, so I don't really care so much about the being specific with the variety because I'm not really seed saving. So my purpose is just to plant and grow some beans. These two are top hat blueberries, which are dwarf type of blueberries, so they're not gonna get any bigger. So these were very, very small. I bought this from an Etsy seller, and it was like a cutting, and it looked like that right now. So this is like 12-inch pot, and there's that volunteer tomato. I'm letting it grow for now. I'm kind of observing the size of it. If it's a compact one, you may consider bringing it inside for the winter, but for now I'm just kind of observing it. This is a pepper variety which I'm actually growing purely as an ornamental plant, but these are also edible. This is called Gillette. I like the purple color of it. I just really like the beauty of this pepper. This is a hot variety, so I'm not even sure if I'm actually gonna try it, but I like the look of it a lot, so I started growing it. This one right here is a hydrangea. This was from a cutting that I have started growing. This is just a gallon pot. I bet you the roots are actually all the way down to that pot as well. So this is why you wanna succession plant beans, because at some point they become like this. So you notice the difference? They are so much more green, and the other ones that are older, they become more yellow and they look like they're dying. At some point they'll stop producing, so that's why you do succession planting for beans. So another plant that I have here is this Asiatic lily. For some reason, I get a lot of flies and hoverflies in here, and there's some bugs in here in there that has been infesting this plant for some reason. I use some water to get rid of some of them. And every time I water, I'm actually going to keep doing that until I don't see the problem anymore. The flowers of this plant is actually really beautiful. This is the laurel leaves, which is one of the herbs that we use for cooking. I wanted to grow that as well. And so far, it has grown a lot bigger compared to what it was when I first planted it. It was a really small seedling that I got from eBay. It is doing pretty well. It's growing pretty slow, but the reason why I planted them in here is because this is also frost sensitive. So I need to bring this inside a house once the weather becomes really cold and I can't tolerate that anymore. So that's what I have right here. So that's a laurel plant. And this is a carnation. This is actually the first flower that I saw from this carnation plant. I think I planted them so late because I couldn't figure out where to put the seedlings that I have sown. So I guess I waited for too long and they had become stunted and just grew just like that. This is one of the carrots. I've actually harvested quite a lot of them already. And I have left a couple because I thought if I leave them, they'll be able to grow a little bit bigger. I'm actually been planning to harvest these carrots fairly soon because I wanted to sow some more seeds for the fall. But like I said, it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes we get the plan and all the thoughts and all that stuff, but it doesn't happen all the time. So I have some more of those carrots. Down here, I also have some carrots. When you grow carrots, you grow them densely. They can grow fairly well, but normally it doesn't get to a size that you wanted it to get. So what you want to do with carrots is you thin them out. With thinnings, what I did is I planted them in this planter where I could see a couple of spaces. And actually, not all of them did well. Some of them died, but the good thing is some of them did well. Look at that. I'm not sure what it looked like. Let's actually pull that one out. Haha, it's quite funny. But that's what happened to the carrots that you would grow if you are planting thinnings from carrots. Let's see what this one looked like. It's the same. So they kind of produce like a ball shaped type of carrots. Quite funny. In case you haven't tried transplanting the carrot thinnings, this is what they look like when you harvest. They look like wonky carrots, but if you guys are okay with experimenting and be okay with wonky carrots, you should try planting the plant thinnings. So this hose reel right here is what I use this when I'm watering my plants. Right here, it's actually on. I forgot to turn it off. I should not have done that, but I have. But yeah, so that's what I use. This right here is my euchre plant, and I may actually transplant that somewhere else because I wanted to use that pot right there. So I'm actually gonna start watering some of my plants right here. So I just basically drag and use that hose reel right there. When I would use fertilizer, I use this one when I wanted to feed my plants. But for the most part, that hose right there, using that hose reel, is what I'm using generally for watering my plants up here on the deck. So thank you for joining me today and for watching this video. I hope you guys were able to enjoy it and maybe was able to spark some ideas. If there's anything that you wanted me to cover in the next video, please let me know in a comment, and I'd be happy to talk about it. So see you in the next one.